The Space Academy was almost empty at night. The bright classrooms were dark now. Long silver hallways were quiet. Only the soft sound of a cleaning machine moved through the building. Daniel pushed his cart slowly, wiping the floors like he did every evening. He was not a teacher. He was not a scientist. He was just the night janitor, a single father who worked hard every day so his little son could go to school. Most students had already left for their dorm rooms. Alien students from different planets studied here. Some were tall and blue. Some had glowing eyes. Some had small wings. Daniel was used to strange things. But that night, something felt different. As he turned into the east hallway, he noticed a shadow near the lockers. At first, he thought it was just a coat hanging. But then the shadow moved, and he stopped pushing his cart. There, sitting on the cold floor, was a small alien dragon girl. Her wings were folded tightly around her body. Her tail was curled near her legs. Her scales were soft silver with light purple lines. She looked very young, too young to be alone at this hour. Daniel did not move closer right away. He did not want to scare her. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl did not answer. She kept her head down. Daniel could hear something, a small sound. Her stomach growled. The sound was quiet, but in the empty hallway, it felt loud. Daniel's heart felt heavy. He walked closer slowly and sat down on the floor, leaving space between them. "It's late," he said gently. "You should be in your dorm." She finally looked up. Her eyes were large and bright gold, but they looked tired. And there was fear in them, not anger, not hate, just fear. Then she whispered something so soft that Daniel almost did not hear it. "Sir, I can't eat." Daniel blinked. He was confused. "What do you mean?" he asked kindly. "Are you sick?" She shook her head. "No." "Then why can't you eat?" She looked around the hallway quickly as if someone might be watching. Then she lowered her voice even more. "I'm not allowed." Daniel felt a strange, cold feeling in his chest. Not allowed? That made no sense. Every student at the academy had meal access. The school was famous for taking care of alien students from different systems. There were strict rules, yes, but no one was supposed to go hungry. Daniel looked at her thin arms. Her wings looked weaker than normal dragon wings. He had seen other dragon students before, and they were usually proud and strong. This girl looked small. "When was the last time you ate?" he asked quietly. She did not answer right away. Finally, she said, 3 days. Daniel's hand tightened on his knee. 3 days. He slowly opened his small lunchbox that was sitting on top of his cleaning cart. Inside was one slice of cold pizza. It was not fresh. It was not special. It was just his dinner. He had saved it for after work. He looked at it for a moment. Then he looked at her. Her eyes quickly moved to the pizza, just for 1 second. Then she looked away fast, like she was ashamed. "I can't," she said again. "If they see me—" "If who sees you?" Daniel asked. She did not answer. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet. Daniel stood up and walked a few steps away, looking around the corner. No one was there. And the security drones were on the other side of the building at this hour. He knew the schedule. He cleaned here every night. He came back and sat down again. "No one is here," he said gently. She looked scared. "You don't understand," she whispered. "If I break the rule, they can send me back." "Back where?" She pressed her lips together. Daniel realized she did not want to talk about it. He slowly held out the pizza. "It's just food," he said. "Nothing bad will happen." She stared at the slice. Her small claws trembled slightly. "Sir, human food is not approved." "Have you tried it before?" he asked. She shook her head. Daniel smiled softly. "Then how do you know it's bad?" She hesitated. Her stomach growled again. That sound made the decision for him. Daniel placed the pizza gently beside her on the floor instead of putting it in her hand. "I'm not forcing you," he said calmly, but no one should sit hungry. He stood up and walked back to his cart, pretending to organize his cleaning supplies. He did not want her to feel pressure. For a few long seconds, nothing happened. Then he heard a small sound, a soft bite. Daniel did not turn around right away. He waited. There was no scream, no alarm, no sudden reaction, only silence. After a moment, he slowly looked back. The little dragon girl was holding the pizza with both hands. Tears were falling quietly down her face as she chewed. Not because it hurt, but because she was hungry. Daniel felt something change inside him. This was not just about food. Something was wrong here. Very wrong. And he knew this would not be the end of it. The next morning, Daniel could not stop thinking about the little dragon girl. Even after he went home and helped his son with homework, even after he tried to sleep, her quiet voice stayed in his mind. "Sir, I can't eat." Those words did not sound like a child being picky about food. They sounded like someone who was afraid. When he returned to the academy that evening for his shift, he paid closer attention to everything around him. He watched the students in the cafeteria. He noticed how meal cards were scanned at the entrance. Every student simply tapped their card, and the system approved their access. The academy was proud of its advanced technology and fairness. At least that was what the posters on the walls claimed. But Daniel began to wonder if fairness really existed for everyone. Later that night, he saw the dragon girl again, but this time she was standing near a vending station in the student commons. She was not trying to buy anything. She was just watching other students eat. When she saw Daniel, she looked nervous, almost guilty, as if she had done something wrong. Daniel walked over calmly, acting as if he had no special reason to speak with her. He greeted her kindly and asked her name. After a short pause, she told him her name was Lyra. Her voice was soft but clear. Daniel noticed that other dragon students walked past her without saying hello. Some even gave her cold looks. It was not open bullying, but it was not kindness either. Daniel decided to ask someone he trusted about the situation. There was an older human cafeteria worker named Mrs. Alvarez who had worked at the academy for many years, or she understood how the system worked. When Daniel carefully mentioned Lyra's name, Mrs. Alvarez became quiet. She looked around before speaking. She explained that some alien clans had special contracts with the academy. Students from powerful clans received full support. Students from weaker clans had more restrictions. Sometimes, if funding problems happened between clans and the academy, services could be quietly limited. Meal access could be delayed. Support could be reduced. It was all written in complex agreements that normal staff were not encouraged to question. Daniel felt anger rising inside him, but he kept his face calm. "So a child can go hungry because of paperwork?" he asked quietly. Mrs. Alvarez did not answer directly. She only said, "It is complicated." That word did not feel good to Daniel. Hunger was not complicated. A child either ate or did not eat. There was nothing complex about that. As his shift continued, Daniel checked the digital maintenance board where temporary system alerts were sometimes listed. He noticed something strange. Lyra's meal account showed a temporary hold status due to administrative review. No timeline, no explanation, just those cold words. That evening, Daniel saw Lyra again in the hallway near the science labs. She looked weaker than the night before, even though she had eaten his pizza. He gently asked her about the meal card. She hesitated, but finally admitted that her clan had fallen behind on sponsorship payments. She said she had been warned not to cause trouble. If she complained, she might lose her place at the academy and be sent back to her home world. Daniel could see how much fear that idea carried. He did not know much about her planet, but he understood what it meant to lose opportunity. He thought about his own son and how he worked long hours so his child could have a better future. As they talked, a group of older dragon students walked past. One of them glanced at Lyra and whispered something to the others. They laughed quietly. It was not loud, but it was enough. Lyra lowered her eyes immediately. Daniel felt protective. He realized this was not just about a broken system. Someone knew her access was blocked. Someone was comfortable watching her struggle. The academy building suddenly felt colder to him. The bright lights and clean floors no longer looked impressive. They looked like a cover hiding unfair treatment. When Daniel finished his shift that night, he did not feel like just a janitor anymore. And he felt like he had seen something he was not supposed to see. A rule existed, yes, but it was a rule no one talked about openly. A rule that allowed quiet suffering. As he locked up his cleaning cart, he made a silent decision. He did not know yet what he would do, but he knew one thing clearly. He would not pretend he had seen nothing. And somewhere in the building, a small alien dragon girl was still afraid to ask for food. The following night, Daniel arrived at the academy earlier than usual. He told himself it was only because he had extra work to finish, but deep down he knew the real reason. He wanted to check on Lyra. The building was still active with students finishing their evening classes, and the sound of distant conversations echoed through the tall metal halls. Daniel pushed his cleaning cart slowly, pretending to focus on his job, but his eyes searched every corridor. He finally saw her near the observation window that looked out into space. She was standing alone, watching the stars in silence. Her small wings were slightly open, as if she wished she could fly far away from everything. Daniel approached her calmly so she would not feel surprised. He asked if she was feeling better. She nodded politely, but her face showed that something was still wrong. After a few seconds of quiet, he gently told her that he had checked the system board. He had seen the administrative review status on her account. When he mentioned it, her body stiffened. Her claws tightened around the railing near the window. She looked around carefully, making sure no one was close enough to hear them. It was clear that whatever she was hiding carried serious weight. Lyra finally spoke in a low voice. She explained that her clan was not powerful like the other dragon clans at the academy. Her people lived on a mining planet far from the central systems. They were known for hard work, not for influence. When she was accepted into the academy, it was considered a great honor. But her acceptance came with conditions. Her clan had signed a strict contract. If they failed to meet certain payments or performance standards, the academy could reduce support without public announcement. That was the agreement. Lyra said her father had warned her before she left home that she must never cause trouble, never complain, and never draw attention to any problem. If she embarrassed the clan, she could lose everything. Daniel listened carefully. But he did not interrupt her. He could hear how much pressure rested on her small shoulders. She continued, explaining that 3 days ago she had received a private message from administration stating that her meal access was temporarily suspended due to pending financial review. She was told not to discuss it with other students. She was advised to manage responsibly until the issue was resolved. Lyra admitted she did not fully understand what that meant, but she understood one thing clearly. If she spoke up, she might be labeled difficult. If she was labeled difficult, she could be sent home. On her planet, returning home after failing at the academy would bring shame to her entire family. Daniel felt a mix of anger and sadness. He saw now that Lyra's hunger was not just about missing meals. It was about fear of losing her future. That it was about silent pressure placed on someone too young to carry it alone. He asked her why she had not gone to a teacher. She shook her head quickly. She explained that some teachers were close to the stronger dragon clans. She did not trust that they would defend her. She also revealed something that surprised Daniel. One of the senior dragon students had approached her days earlier and warned her not to expect special treatment. The student had hinted that some clans preferred fewer competitors from weaker families. The message was clear. If she quietly left, others would benefit. As she finished speaking, Daniel realized this was no accident. The blocked meal card was not simply a system delay. It was pressure. It was designed to make her uncomfortable enough to quit without open conflict. The academy could claim everything was within policy. On paper, it would look clean. But in reality, a young student was being pushed out through quiet hardship. Daniel thought about how often such things might happen without anyone noticing. He felt a strong sense of responsibility growing inside him. He was not part of the academic staff. He was only a janitor, but he was also a father. He knew what it meant to protect a child's hope. Lyra then said something that made the situation even more serious. She explained that if she broke any rule while under review, including eating unapproved food, it could be written in her record as misconduct. That record could be used as official reason to remove her from the academy. That was why she had hesitated before eating the pizza. It was not about taste or health. It was about survival. She had been weighing the risk of one small slice of food against the possibility of losing her dream. Daniel stood silently for a moment, looking out at the stars beyond the glass. He realized that the problem was deeper than he had thought. This was not just about feeding a hungry student. It was about standing against a quiet system that relied on fear and silence. He turned back to Lyra and spoke in a calm but firm voice. He told her that she had done nothing wrong. He told her that hunger was not misconduct. He told her that being from a smaller clan did not make her less valuable. Lyra looked at him with surprise, as if she was not used to hearing such words from an adult at the academy. As the lights in the hallway dimmed to night mode, Daniel made a quiet promise to himself. He would not let this be ignored. But he did not yet know how he would challenge something so official and structured. But he knew that doing nothing was not an option. Somewhere behind polished rules and digital systems, someone had decided that a small dragon girl could be pushed aside without noise. Daniel understood now that what she was hiding was not weakness. It was courage. She had been trying to protect her family's honor while starving in silence, and he knew that silence was about to end. That night, Daniel did not go home immediately after his shift ended. He sat inside the small staff locker room for a long time, thinking carefully about everything Lyra had told him. The academy rules were clear. Staff members were not supposed to interfere in administrative matters related to alien sponsorship contracts. Human employees were expected to follow instructions, not question them. Daniel understood that he was just a janitor. He did not have authority. He did not have influence. But he also understood something simple that did not require authority. A child should not be hungry because of financial pressure between adults. The more he thought about it, the more certain he became that doing nothing would make him part of the problem. The next evening, Daniel came to work carrying a small paper bag along with his cleaning supplies. Inside the bag was fresh food he had bought on his way to the academy. It was not expensive, but it was warm and filling. He had used money he normally saved for small comforts at home. As he pushed his cart through the halls, his heart beat a little faster than usual. He was aware that security cameras monitored most areas, and he knew that helping Lyra again could be seen as interference. But he had already decided that fear would not guide him. He found Lyra near the back staircase where students rarely passed at night. She looked surprised to see him approach with purpose instead of casual conversation. Daniel sat down on the steps beside her and placed the paper bag between them. He did not speak immediately. He allowed her to notice it on her own. When she realized what it was, her expression changed from surprise to worry. She shook her head slowly before he even offered it. She reminded him in a quiet voice that her situation was under review and that any violation could be recorded against her. She was thinking about her record, her future, and her clan's honor. Daniel listened, then spoke calmly. And he explained that the system might control her meal card, but it did not control kindness. He told her that rules designed to quietly push someone out were not rules that deserved blind respect. He made it clear that he was not asking her to break a rule alone. If anyone questioned the situation, he would take responsibility for giving her the food. He understood the risk to his job. Losing his position would not be easy for him or his son, but he believed that some risks were worth taking when fairness was involved. Lyra looked at him with confusion mixed with disbelief. She had grown up believing that humans were practical and careful. She did not understand why someone outside her clan would endanger his own stability for her sake. Daniel did not offer long explanations. He simply opened the bag and placed the food beside her again. He told her she did not have to decide immediately. He would stay there for a few minutes while pretending to check maintenance logs on his tablet. He gave her space so the choice would still feel like hers. The hallway remained quiet. The soft hum of the Academy's ventilation system filled the silence. Lyra stared at the food for what felt like a very long time. Her small claws trembled slightly, not because she doubted her hunger, but because she feared the consequences. Finally, she picked up a small piece and took a cautious bite. Daniel watched her closely, not because he expected something to go wrong, but because he wanted to see relief replace fear. Nothing happened except the simple fact that she was eating. No alarm sounded. No security drones appeared. It was just a young student having a meal. As she continued eating, her shoulders slowly relaxed. The tension in her wings softened. For the first time since Daniel had met her, she looked less like someone preparing for punishment and more like a normal child. Daniel felt a quiet satisfaction, not pride, but reassurance that he had made the right choice. Yet he also understood that this was only a temporary solution. Feeding her in secret would not fix the system that had allowed her to be placed in this situation. When she finished, Lyra thanked him in a voice that was steadier than before. She admitted that she had almost decided to endure the hunger quietly until the review ended, even if it meant fainting during class. She believed that showing weakness would confirm what some others already thought about her clan. Daniel responded firmly that strength did not mean silent suffering. A real strength sometimes meant allowing someone to help. His words seemed new to her, as if she had never been told that before. As Daniel returned to his cleaning duties later that night, he sensed that eyes might already be watching more closely. The Academy was too organized for repeated actions to go unnoticed forever. He was aware that what he had done could lead to questions from administration. He might be called into an office and warned. He might even be threatened with dismissal. But as he wiped the polished floors under the bright lights, he did not feel regret. He felt clarity. He had chosen to stand on the side of fairness rather than comfort. Unknown to both of them, events were already moving beyond quiet hallways. Digital logs recorded small irregularities. A senior dragon student who disliked Lyra had noticed that she no longer looked weak. Whispers were beginning to form in places Daniel could not hear. The simple act of sharing food had started something larger than either of them realized. And soon, the risk Daniel had accepted would no longer remain hidden in the shadows of the Academy corridors. The warning did not come quietly. 2 evenings after Daniel had brought Lyra food again, a formal message appeared on his staff tablet while he was polishing the main lobby floor. The screen flashed with a request for immediate presence in the administrative wing. Daniel stood still for a moment, staring at the words. He had expected this. Still, the reality of it felt heavy. He placed his cleaning tools neatly back onto his cart, straightened his uniform, and then walked calmly toward the elevators. He refused to look nervous, even though his heart was beating harder than usual. The administrative wing was brighter than the rest of the building, almost cold in its perfect order. The walls were smooth white metal, and the air smelled faintly sterile. When Daniel entered the office, 3 figures were waiting. One was the human operations manager. The other 2 were dragon officials representing external clan partnerships. Their expressions were controlled and professional, but there was tension beneath their calm faces. Daniel stood respectfully but did not lower his eyes. The operations manager began speaking first. She explained that digital monitoring systems had detected unauthorized food distribution to a sponsored alien student under administrative review. She did not mention Lyra's name at first, but Daniel knew exactly who they meant. She asked if he had given personal food to that student. Daniel did not lie. He simply said yes. The room grew quiet for a few seconds. One of the Dragon officials leaned forward and asked if Daniel understood that interfering with sponsorship policy could disrupt contractual agreements between clans and the Academy. Daniel answered carefully but honestly. He said he understood policies, but he also understood hunger. He said that no contract should require a student to starve quietly. His tone was calm, not angry. He did not raise his voice, but his words carried weight because they were simple and direct. The Dragon official's eyes narrowed slightly. He replied that the situation was temporary and part of a financial review process. Daniel responded that temporary hunger still felt permanent to the one experiencing it. The conversation shifted. They warned him that staff members were not allowed to create independent support channels for sponsored students. Doing so could be interpreted as undermining the system. Daniel asked one question in return. He asked whether the system had confirmed that Lyra had access to safe food during the review. The officials exchanged a brief look. There was no clear answer. Instead, they repeated that the matter was being handled according to policy. Daniel realized then that policy was being used as a shield to avoid responsibility. The tension in the room increased when one of the Dragon officials revealed that a senior student had filed a concern, and the report claimed that Lyra had violated dietary restrictions and possibly endangered herself. Daniel understood immediately who that student must be. The same older dragon who had been watching Lyra in the halls. This was not just about rules. It was about pressure and influence. Someone had hoped that by reporting her they could strengthen the case against her continued enrollment. Daniel spoke again, this time more firmly. He said that he had personally observed no medical reaction after she ate. He had seen no danger. He also mentioned that she had not received Academy meals for days. That statement shifted the tone of the meeting. The human operations manager looked surprised. She checked something on her tablet quickly. The Dragon officials did not look pleased. For the first time, doubt entered the conversation. When one of the officials attempted to redirect the focus back to Daniel's conduct, he was reminded that disciplinary action against staff was possible if interference continued. Daniel felt the weight of that threat. Losing his job would affect his son deeply. But he also knew that backing down now would confirm that silence was stronger than fairness. He calmly stated that he would accept any consequences for feeding a hungry child. He would not apologize for it. His voice did not shake. The room fell silent again, but this silence felt different. It was no longer controlled. It was uncertain. The operations manager announced that a review of the meal access system would be conducted immediately. She stated that if errors were found, they would be corrected. The Dragon officials did not object openly, but their expressions showed clear discomfort. The meeting ended without a final decision about Daniel's employment status. Instead, he was placed under temporary observation. When Daniel left the administrative wing, he did not feel victorious. He felt exposed. Word of the meeting spread quietly among staff and some students. By the next day, whispers filled the hallways. Some students looked at him with respect. Others looked at him with caution, as if he had disturbed something that should have remained untouched. Lyra avoided eye contact at first, worried that she had caused trouble for him. But Daniel gave her a small nod to reassure her that he did not regret anything. Meanwhile, the investigation into her meal access began. System logs were examined more closely than before. The hidden changes in authorization codes started to surface. It became clear that the suspension of her meals had not followed standard procedure. Someone with elevated access had modified the timeline. That discovery changed everything. What had once been framed as routine financial review now appeared suspicious. The Academy could no longer treat the matter as minor. Too many eyes were watching. The confrontation had forced light into a place that had been comfortable in shadow. Daniel returned to his cleaning duties, aware that the situation was far from over. He did not know what final outcome awaited him or Lyra, but he knew one truth clearly. The simple act of sharing food had broken the silence that allowed quiet injustice to survive, and now the system itself was being questioned. I continue with 6-part more unique and lengthy, and also you make sure the investigation moved faster than anyone expected. What had started as a quiet warning to a janitor was now becoming a serious internal review. Over the next few days, several staff members were asked to provide access logs and communication records. The Academy's technology department began checking timestamps connected to Lyra's meal card suspension. What they discovered did not match official policy. The administrative review code had been entered manually, not automatically through financial systems as originally claimed. That meant someone with high-level clearance had made the change intentionally. Daniel continued his duties as usual, but he could feel the shift in the atmosphere. Staff members who once avoided eye contact now greeted him carefully. Some whispered that the situation was bigger than a simple contract issue. Lyra remained quiet in public, but Daniel noticed that she no longer looked as weak as before. She was eating again, as temporary meal access had been restored during the review. Still, the uncertainty of the outcome made her nervous. She worried that even if the truth came out, powerful clans could still influence the decision quietly. 2 days later, a formal announcement was made. All students were informed that an internal audit had revealed irregular modifications in sponsorship support systems. No names were mentioned publicly at first, but it was clear that something serious had been uncovered. Behind closed doors, the investigation traced the manual suspension of Lyra's meal access to a senior dragon student whose family represented a high-ranking clan partner. That student had access to limited administrative tools through a special internship program within the Academy's governance department. He had used that position to adjust Lyra's status, hoping the discomfort would push her to withdraw voluntarily. The evidence was clear. Access logs showed the exact time of modification. Security footage confirmed his presence in the administrative console area during that window. Private messages retrieved from his communication device revealed conversations about reducing unnecessary competition from weaker clans. The language was careful but clear enough to reveal intent. What he had expected to remain invisible had now been documented beyond denial. When the Academy leadership confronted him, he attempted to justify his actions by claiming he was protecting contractual balance between clans. He argued that the agreement allowed adjustments during financial review periods. However, the audit team pointed out that no official review had been scheduled at that time. The modification had bypassed required authorization steps. What he called strategic management was, in reality, manipulation. The Academy faced a difficult choice. Ignoring the situation would damage its reputation for fairness. Acting openly would risk tension with a powerful clan. After careful deliberation, the leadership made a formal decision. The senior student was suspended from his internship role and placed under disciplinary review. His clan representatives were privately informed that policy violations had been confirmed. The Academy emphasized that student welfare could not be used as leverage in clan politics. Lyra was called into the administration office shortly after. Daniel waited outside in the hallway while she spoke with officials. He tried to focus on polishing a nearby wall panel, but his thoughts remained fixed on what might happen inside that room. After nearly an hour, the door opened. Lyra stepped out slowly. For a brief second, Daniel could not read her expression. Then he saw it clearly. Relief. Her meal access was fully restored. More importantly, the Academy had formally acknowledged that she had done nothing wrong. Her record would remain clean. The suspension was declared invalid. While the announcement would not be made public in detail, she would not face removal or penalty. For the first time since Daniel had met her, the fear that constantly shadowed her seemed to lift. Later that evening, Lyra approached Daniel in the quiet hallway near the science labs. She thanked him again, but this time her voice carried strength instead of trembling uncertainty. She admitted that she had nearly accepted the situation as her fault. She had believed that perhaps her clan truly did not belong among stronger families. Daniel told her something simple but powerful. He said that systems can fail, but that does not mean individuals are small. He reminded her that she had endured the pressure without giving up on her studies. The Academy administration also met with Daniel privately. He was informed that while his actions technically bypassed policy, his decision had exposed misconduct that would have remained hidden. He received an official caution about future involvement in administrative matters, but no further punishment was given. The human operations manager quietly acknowledged that his insistence on asking one simple question, whether the student had safe food, had changed the direction of the review. As the week came to an end, life at the academy slowly returned to its usual rhythm. Students resumed classes without openly discussing what had happened. The senior dragon who had manipulated the system avoided public attention, but the lesson remained. Quiet injustice had been interrupted by a simple act of kindness and the refusal to ignore discomfort. Daniel pushed his cleaning cart through the halls once more, the same as always. He was still just a janitor in uniform, wiping floors under bright lights. Yet something had shifted in the building. Policies were being reviewed more carefully. Oversight controls were tightened. And in one small dorm room, a young dragon student studied with renewed focus, no longer afraid that hunger would silently end her future. Months passed, and the academy returned to its usual rhythm, but the quiet change that had begun in a dark hallway never fully disappeared. Lyra no longer walked with her wings folded tightly against her back. She moved through the halls with steady steps, her head raised instead of lowered. The fear that once followed her like a shadow had slowly faded. She focused on her studies with deep determination. In science labs, she stayed late to finish experiments. In flight training sessions, her wings grew stronger with practice. Teachers began to notice her sharp thinking and calm discipline. She was no longer just a sponsored student from a weaker clan. She was becoming one of the top performers in her year. Daniel watched this transformation quietly from a distance. He never spoke about what had happened. He did not seek recognition. He continued to clean the floors, empty trash bins, and polish the glass walls that looked out into space. To most people, he was still just the night janitor. But sometimes, when Lyra passed by, she gave him a small nod of respect that meant more than any official praise. It reminded him that small actions could create lasting impact. As graduation season approached, excitement filled the academy. Students prepared speeches, uniforms, and ceremonial items from their home planets. Lyra worked harder than ever, determined to graduate with honor. Her clan had stabilized its finances, and her performance had helped restore their reputation. Word of her achievements traveled back to her home world. For the first time, she felt pride instead of pressure. On graduation day, the large central hall was decorated with banners from many star systems. Families and representatives from different clans attended in person or through holographic projection. The ceremony was formal and impressive. Names were called one by one as students stepped forward to receive their honors. When Lyra's name was announced, a soft wave of applause filled the room. She walked confidently to the stage, her silver scales reflecting the bright lights. She received special recognition for academic excellence and resilience during challenging circumstances, though the details of those challenges were not publicly discussed. After the ceremony ended, students gathered with their families. Laughter and celebration filled the air. Daniel had finished his shift early so he could watch from the back of the hall. He did not expect Lyra to notice him among the crowd. But as the gathering began to thin, she searched the room carefully. When she found him, she walked directly toward him without hesitation. In her hands, she carried a small metal emblem shaped like a dragon wing. It was engraved with the symbol of her clan. She stopped in front of him and held it out respectfully. She explained that her clan gave this emblem to those who protected their future. It was rarely given to outsiders. She told him that while many followed rules, he had followed something stronger, and he had chosen kindness when it was easier to stay silent. She said that one slice of pizza had shown her that not all power came from rank or wealth. Some power came from simple humanity. Daniel looked at the emblem quietly. He felt humbled, not proud. He told her that he had only done what any decent person should do. But Lyra gently disagreed. She said that many people see unfairness and choose comfort. He had chosen courage. She thanked him not only for the food, but for reminding her that her worth was not decided by contracts or politics. As Lyra prepared to leave the academy and return to her planet to continue advanced training, she stood taller than when she first arrived. The fear that once kept her silent had been replaced with confidence. She knew there would still be challenges in her future. But she also knew she did not have to accept quiet injustice as normal. That evening, after the celebration ended and the halls grew quiet again, Daniel returned to his familiar routine. He pushed his cleaning cart through the now empty corridor where he had first seen a small dragon girl sitting alone and hungry. The floor looked the same. The lights were the same. But he knew something important had changed. A system had been questioned. A student had stayed. A future had continued. He paused for a moment in that hallway before moving on. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy. They were not the richest or the most advanced. But sometimes, when faced with a simple choice between silence and kindness, a human heart could change more than any powerful contract. And all it had taken to begin that change was one quiet sentence and one shared slice of pizza,